Hey everyone, so in this game I'm playing the white pieces, and my opponent Anonymous is playing the black pieces. This game was pretty common. I did make a mistake once, and but most of the times I just try to find a high percentage move and pretty much just wear the opponent down. Um, and that's why I ended up winning in the end, but you know, I was fortunate enough to get by one mistake, as I'll show in this video. But okay, so we'll get started. This turned into a Ruy Lopez, so like the initially started off with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight c6, and then the Ruy Lopez turned into by bishop going to b5. And more specifically, if you're into opening theories and opening principles, this is known as the um, old Steinitz defense or something like that. I actually have no idea. Um, if you ask me, I probably know like 5 openings at most by name. I have played many different openings, but personally, I'm one of those people who I do believe in opening theories and principles, but it's just that um, as long as you don't make major mistakes in the opening and you have a nice middle game, you'll probably have a nice end game. That's my theory. So I'm not too intensive in memorizing long lines and variations of different, actually several hundreds of thousands of openings. I'm just not into that. I do play e4 king's opening most of the times when I'm white, and you know, sometimes I'll play something like the Berlin or go into the Knight's variation if I'm playing something like I'm playing black. But I'm not too big on the opening theory. But I looked it up, and the opponent played d6. This is known as the old Stein's variation into the Ruy Lopez opening. But again, I had no idea. Looked into Google, and Google said probability of white winning in this position is 56%, so that's good, I guess. But it's a blitz game, you have like 10 minutes to finish the whole game, and you don't really go deep into the opening principles. From there on, I went on to castle, natural move. I castled in the fourth move, which is good. My opponent is nowhere near castling, which is good for me. He went on to play bishop to g4, which is good, but I really don't like pins of my knights, so I'm going to try to find a replacement as soon as possible for my knight. Hopefully get this knight to d2 and then get it again to f3. That's what I'm looking to do over here. So before I do that, I have to play d3, have the opening up here for my knight to go on to d3 from b1. So after that, he played bishop to e7, which is an okay move. Develops his bishop. He's getting ready to get the knight to f6 and castle on the king side. So far so good. We're just developing pieces. And I just delayed the movement of the knight to d2 by one move because if I do that while my bishop is still on c1, it blocks his way. And I'm not really interested in fianchettoing it onto the b2 square because, I mean, I would eventually like my bishop to come down to d4 and then to b3, eyeing down the f7 diagonal. So that was the idea for the move bishop to e3. It develops at the same time and gets ready for the knight to come to d2. From there on, he played pawn a6, which is trying to get rid of my bishop over here. And like I said, I eventually want to get my bishop to a4 and then down to b3. So I play bishop a4. He plays knight to f6, getting ready to castle the next move. Thereon I play knight, sorry, pawn to c3. Um, I could have played bishop to, or but not bishop, sorry, knight to d2, like I've been saying, but I really wanted to get the queen to c2, so I can get my rooks connected on the long, long empty first rank. After that, e castled, which was expected. Then I played knight to d2 from b1, which I've been wanting to play since like the fourth or fifth move. Then on he played pawn to d5, which I thought was an okay move. I understand the reason behind it, because right now the bishop on e7 is kind of it's literally, it can't move anywhere, right? And you want your pieces to be as mobile as possible. So I understand the reasoning behind d5 move, opens up the diagonal for the bishop. But as soon as he did that, he kind of gave up a defender for the central e5 pawn. And that's, as soon as he did that, I realized I have an opportunity of capturing that pawn and going one pawn up in the game. So that's what my mindset was after he played d5. Um, so from then on, before I even have a hope of capturing this e5 pawn, I need to get my queen to safety. So I played, well, I was kind of foregoing that for a moment actually. So I played pawn capturing on d5, and he played knight captures on d5. You know, in retrospect, if I had played queen c2 before capturing on d5, that might have been a little bit better for me. But it's not too bad for me right now. From here on, I played queen c2, just relieving my knight on f3 of the pin by the bishop on g4. So that was the reasoning behind that move. Then on, he decided that, you know, the queen's safe now, so there's no point of just hanging around on g4 with the bishop. So he just decided to exchange, which is okay. I was expecting that. And I really like a knight on f3, just gives an extra protection on the king side. And also controls the bishop from coming down to g5, and queen coming down to like some crazy square like h4. So I captured back on f3 with my knight, and you know, at this point I was expecting something like bishop to e3, because if you can really trade a knight for a bishop in the early games, that's good. And he played bishop to d6, which is good, you know, because if he doesn't, then I capture on c6. The knight's gone. He has to capture with the pawn on. He captures. Sorry, zoom. Sorry. So he captures back on c6, and then I capture the pawn on e5. So at that moment I would be a pawn up. So that was the whole idea behind giving protection to the e5 pawn. So he played bishop to d6. Then I played bishop to d2. This couple of reasons behind the move. I didn't like the idea of exchanging my bishop for a knight, so it prevents the exchange occurring on e3. And at the same time, I'm getting ready, getting my rooks ready to come to e1, right? So the rook has a nice open e file to conquer, pretty much. And thereon he played king to h8. This move was a question mark for me. I'm not sure why he played this. It's not a blunder or anything. I mean, it's not even a mistake, but I just don't see a clear point. But that's okay. I mean, I can't read my opponent's mind all the time. Then on, like I said, I wanted to control the E file, so I played Rook E1 from F1. He played Pawn to F5, which is okay. I mean, I think he's trying to um, get down on the E4, but I don't know. I don't think so. Um, Maybe he played this because he wanted to. I mean, I probably played King H8 because he wanted to, play pawn to F4 or F5. And if he did that, then if I had played something like bishop to B3, then the knight would kind of have been lost. So he didn't want that to happen. So I guess now I understand the idea behind H8, King H8, because he wanted the pawn to come down to F5 as soon as possible. For some reason, I don't know. So at this point I realized I can win the pawn on E5. So I captured with the bishop and exchanged the bishop for the knight. And um, even though bishops are more valuable in my opinion in the endgame, um, there's a double pawn occurring for black now, and the double pawn is really hard to defend all the time. So I was feeling comfortable in my decision. So he didn't have much options, so he captured back with the pawn on c6. I captured the pawn on e5. He captured back with bishop to e5, and I captured back with my rook on e5. So a lot of capturing going on last few moves, but as you can see, I'm up by a pawn now, which is good. Um, and my rook is centralized in literally the middle of the board, pretty much. So from here on, he played queen to h4. I was expecting the queen to come down there eventually, just threatening my king's side. And since he has a pawn on f5 already, it could become messy for me if I don't play carefully. At this point, my time was running pretty low. I had about 2.5 minutes. Half my time was gone. I think he still had about 3.5 minutes or 3 minutes to go. So I played pawn d4, just adding protection, getting my queen to attack the f5 pawn. So that was the idea behind that. Then he played pawn to f4, and he didn't want to lose this pawn on f5 just for free because my rook would come on f5 and I would win one more pawn due to the protection of the queen on c2. So I think he played pawn f4 for that reason. Also, he's just putting a lot of pressure for me on the king side. Here on, I should have played something like pawn c4, which would have been a really nice move in my opinion for me, chasing away the knight. But I decided to put more pressure on the f4 pawn, and so I played queen e4, which the computer analysis showed that before this move I was pretty ahead in the game, but after this move it was almost even. I do understand the reason now. I completely missed the move in the game itself. It is my fault because after queen e4, I was really hoping for the knight to stay in his position, and I was looking to play something like c4, and when the knight moves, I can capture the pawn over here. But you know, it was a good move. If he had played something like knight to f6, then I have to move my queen, and it could spell disaster for me. But I think he just missed that move as well, and he played queen f6, which again was a mistake in my opinion, because now I have a lot of option to put pressure on him now. As I was saying, it's really important, like these games that I'm analyzing, you have to understand that one of the purpose being that even if you have like a few set moves in mind, you have a picture of what the game will look like in, let's say, 5 or 6 moves. The order in which you play the moves is really important. If I had played c4 before queen e4, then I wouldn't have made the mistake. But I was just lucky that he missed the move knight f6, and it allowed me to play pawn c4, and this threatens the knight over here on d5, and he played knight to b6. At this moment, I realized I have a mating opportunity. Um, for example, if I play not pawn, bishop to d4 or b4, right, attacking the rook on f8, and if this is a big if, right, if he had played something like rook f7, then I would have just played a rook to e8, and essentially putting a lot of pressure on the king over here, and probably end up winning the rook for his bishop, and the end game, everything pretty much would have just gone from here, and we would have had a rook versus a knight end game, which would have been good for me. But that didn't happen. I was expecting him. I was hoping that he would play something like rook f7, but he didn't do that. So I played bishop b4, and then he countered by playing rook d8, which was a blunder in my opinion. Again, I don't know why the computer doesn't think that it's a blunder. Computer just says it's a mistake, but this is a blunder because now I see a clear path of winning. I just played um, double attacking on the e7 square, so I just moved my bishop to e7, protected by the rook on e5, which is protected by the queen on e5, so it's like, a lot of protection, and it's a double attack on the rook on b8 and the queen on f6. So he's not going to lose a queen, right? I mean, he has to move the queen to safety. And so, yeah, I'm gonna gain the rook, right, for my bishop. And if I'm in his position now, at this moment, he's down on time a lot. I think he's really under a minute, and I have just over a minute left. So I think time pressure and just seeing the game slip away from himself. He blundered again, right? He played queen to d6, and at this moment I didn't even think for a second. I just captured back with my bishop on d6, and I played bishop d6, and this is where he resigned. So it's a couple of important lessons you can take from the game. Sometimes it's not you that wins, it's the opponent that loses. And this instance, the game might have completely been on its head if he had played knight f6 a few moves back. But at the same time, if I had played c4 before moving my queen to e4, then the game wouldn't have been on its head. So I made a mistake, and he made a mistake. Pretty much neutraled out in the end. But, so an important lesson again, saying that if you have a picture of a game happening a certain way in, let's say, the next 5 moves, the way you get to that picture, I mean, you can have the final position be that way, but if you move certain pieces at certain time, that can really have a big impact on your game. Like I said a few moves back, if I played c4 before moving my queen to e4, it would have ended up being the same picture in the center, but you know, it completely changes the dynamic of the game. So that was it for this game. Hope you liked it. Join me for the next one.